maintaining relevance. One of your slides in your presentation regarding post clarity shift. I mean, the clarity project was finalized, as we all know, in March 2009, and about 36 newly updated and clarified ISS, including IS2C1, was adopted and approved. So we are in the process of digesting these all ISRs. And very recently, it's a great work, no doubt, but after a very short period, the need was felt of improving these ISRs which you just mentioned. ISR 610 using the work of internal auditors. This is going to be approved as final standard in 2011. Another one, ISR 720, the auditor's responsibility relating to other information in documents containing audited financial statements. First read exposure is planned in March 2011. Now you see, these clarified ISRs have become effective from 15 December 2009. Right. And in substance, the first application will be for the accounting year ending on December 2010. So don't you think it's too early to revise the ISR? The ISRs have not been even effective in substance, and we are in the process of revising. This is the one issue. Don't you think it would affect the worldwide understandability and the consistency especially? Okay. So and another question is regarding your ISR 700. I would like to suggest that there is a still expectation gap between the readers and the auditors regarding the terms that we use, like true and fair in all material respects. So probably since now the audited accounts are for the world at large, and the users are the global users. So again, we need to improve the understandability of the unqualified auditor's report at least.
Okay, would you like to? Is that not working?
That's good. No. Okay.
Yeah, the red flowers were on the red light. First, you make a valid point that as we have this whole suite of clarified ISAs, you should have a bit of a pause. Well, that's what we promised the world, that at least for 2 years after finalization of the clarified ISAs, there will be no new standards applicable. And that's what we certainly will deliver, because the good news is that we can be very slow, and that is because of all the due process. So you mentioned the example of ISO 610. It's now out for consultation. Then we have to analyze the comments. Then we have to incorporate those comments in a revised exposure draft with the intention of that becoming a final standard. And before that's done, we are quite, well, maybe a year from here or so, and then we also will indicate from which date the standard will be effective, and it will not be immediately after publication. So usually we take between 1 and 2 years after the publication of the final standard before it becomes effective, and we always encourage earlier adoption, but it's not mandated in that time. So that's how we value your point. And the same goes even more for 720, which is in its very early days. So we stick to that point. And the other point on 700, the audit report, the understanding, yeah, I think that is with the profession from its very beginning. So we have to do what we can. And what we also indicate in the consultation paper on strategy, that we also would like to engage in some communications to further trying to explain what it is and what people should understand by it. One simple example is a one-page handout that we probably will distribute at the World Congress of Accountants, just listing audits, reviews, compilations, agreed upon procedures. in as simple as we can. We cannot that simple, but we try. And another thing is that we hope to agree in December on what we call thought piece, a brief note on the subject of audit quality. And I have to see, of course, what the draft will be, but that also will address what is audit quality actually, and how would you arrive at that, and how can you contribute to that. So we are aware of the importance of communications, and we have a couple of initiatives to also address that specifically.
Can I add something? May I just add that Arnold put a chart up on the screen which was intended to test whether your eyesight was good or very bad, and whether or not you were colorblind, because it had all the listed eyes on, and some were in yellow and some were in gray, and I've forgotten what the other colors were. But the important part of the chart was that when we tried to get the ISA Clarity project completed, we had to decide whether we had time to revise and update all of the ISAs, or whether we, in order to get them finished by the deadline, we would simply rewrite them in the Clarity style without consulting on whether they were the best standard we could have in 2009. And there were about 8 of those standards that we simply redrafted. We did not revise them, we just redrafted them. Many people said, that's fine, we accept that for part of this Clarity package of ISAs, but we believe that those 8 should be revisited immediately. And the board has not accepted that. The board has said, no, we don't think there is some of them are so fundamentally wrong that we have to start 8 new projects all at once. But 2 of them that we had comments on, that people had said, we'll accept them for now, but we actually think they could be better, were the 2 that you mentioned, which were ISA 610 and 720. So these are 2 of the 8 standards that we simply redrafted and didn't actually technically revise. And so they have not been revised technically for 12 years, 10 or 12 years. And clearly the world has changed, and clearly the expectations of what auditors should do with respect to the work of internal auditors has changed a lot. And that's why those projects are being worked on now. And I think Arnold's consultation paper he referred to will say, well, all right, so thinking about the other 6 that we still have that are just redrafted but not revised, if we had to start a couple of those in the next 3 years, which would they be? What would be your suggestions as the priority? So this will be an ongoing process of upgrading the standards, and the board's also going to have to think about the practical experience, which is the question you asked. What can we learn in another 2 years from now about the 30 standards that we should have done differently? So there is going to be a combination of having to revise the standards. The world is not going to stand still. And really we're doing this just so that there is CPD for everybody. And the examination committee will have to rewrite the syllabus every year. No, I'm kidding. It's not that at all. But it's not a static world. It's a changing world we're in.
Right, any more questions? Ladies, gentlemen? Allah, yes, please.
Thank you very much, Altaf Noor Ali. First of all, thank you for coming over and giving us your time and sharing your thoughts. This is the first time that we are having this kind of interaction, and we are finding it very, very useful. Couple of things that I would like to share with you relating to your presentations, gentlemen. The first one is relating to Mr. Arnold, and the part that you mentioned was about the implementation of these standards. And also, I found a good discourse about the transparency and the balanced part that you mentioned. So my question, first question is about the transparency and the black box of what auditor does, because that somehow does not, it's never out, it's never exposed as to what kind of processes the auditors goes through, and I believe that is one of the major parts of the misgivings in the general public. So what I would like to know is the board is doing about it. That's the first one. The second one, the second part is about the way the expression